In life, we encounter people every day, all of whom have stories to share. We rarely take the time to ask people their personal stories, many of which will touch, move, and inspire us in some way. Matt has a passion for making authentic connections and learning about people from all walks of life. He has lived a life of giving back to the community and making a difference in people's lives. Are you ready to meet fascinating people and hear some inspiring stories? The Matt Hilton Show will introduce you to a world of possibilities you never knew existed. Sit back, be present, and enjoy. Here's your host, Matt Hilton.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into the Matt Hilton Show. Today's episode is the second part of Kelli Kilpatrick's story. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned for a word from our sponsor.
With almost 20 years of real estate experience in the North Texas area, the professional realtors at Hilton Realty Advisors have helped over 500 clients with their housing needs. Hilton Realty Advisors covers all areas of real estate: buying, selling, building, investing, and renting. We deliver the keys to homeownership to all through integrity, love, and joy. Call us today for all of your real estate needs.
But I believe the first time that I introduced Russ to Mom and Dad was in a public place. It might have even been like in the Black Eyed Peas. Do you guys remember the Black Eyed Peas, right? And Russ has a story where, I don't know if I'm going to tell it quite right, but I think it's a really interesting story where he meets my dad in person for the first time and he shakes my father's hand, and my father's a farmer and he wears like size 18 ring or something, just enormously large. And Russ was like, "It's nice to meet you," as my father's hand engulfs his. And so everyone was cordial, right? Like, my parents were civil enough folks that they could, have conversations. And my mother always told me, "I know that Russ is a good man because I know that you would choose a good man, Kelli. I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about the rest of the world." And you know what? They weren't necessarily wrong. Again, I never questioned my parents' love for me. They just wanted the best for me.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I think just a couple of other things that I think is really important to the conversation is that when I was in high school, that's when it became very clear to me that my parents didn't value crossing very clear lines, because there had been some rumors around high school. I was head cheer. I mean, there was all these.
Wait, you were what? You were a head cheerleader? Okay.
This was like many, many years ago, and a long, long time ago. And I was in the, I was very well known and those kinds of things. And so the word got around that somebody on the basketball team was interested in me. And then it got back to my parents. We're in a small town. It got back to my mom and dad. So they had the conversation with me. And then fast forward about a year later, I don't know why this came up, but my mother told me, "Don't ever bring a black man home and tell your father you're going to marry him. It will kill him." So these seeds had been planted, right? These words had been said. And I know we're making a lot of it right now. These were not the only conversations I ever had with my parents.
Sure.
But in the context of the story with my personal life, these things were accumulating. It was very, very much a cumulative conversation over time.
Yeah.
And at one point, after my parents met Russ, I don't know if I ever shared this with Russ, but they asked me not to get married until after my grandparents had died. And if we got married, please don't have children. I can choose to do that to myself, but please don't choose to do that to others. And so it took 5 years. Russ finally proposed at the top of a mountain in Winter Park, Colorado. It was a beautiful proposal. And we came down the mountain, and I looked at him and I said, "You have to do one thing." And he said, "What's the one thing?" I said, "You have to call my dad and ask for my hand in marriage. Because I'm my father's only daughter, and this is his only opportunity to receive that phone call."
Right. And?
That was a tough conversation. Russ picked up the phone. He called my dad, and my dad did not give his approval for us to marry. He said, you kids are... Now, mind you, when we got married, Russ was 40 and I was 36. So we were not kids.
You kids.
We kids. You kids are going to do whatever you kids are going to do. And I believe he said, if you ever hurt my daughter, you'll have me to answer to. I'm not sure. That
Probably.
something in that context, right? And so that was an interesting way to then go into wedding planning. So we decided not to have our wedding in Texas because we didn't feel welcome. We had our wedding in North Carolina where we lived, and my parents were not going to come to the wedding. And then the nasty family secret started to be discovered among my mother's 8 siblings. And her sisters picked up the phone and called her and said, we know this is hard for you, but you have to be at Kelli's wedding. We're all going to go, and you're going to go with us. My mother was almost the baby, so they were even older than her. And they came. And my parents came. Both of my parents walked us down the aisle. They gave me away. They expected to see something that they didn't see. Now, we did have a black and white wedding. Literally, our colors were black and white.
You didn't have any blue added.
We didn't have any blue added that day. Pretty much all of Russ's groomsmen were black, and all of my bridesmaids were white. You know, there was an exception here or there. But we had a black and white wedding, and it was a beautiful display of love that day.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So what did you learn from that experience? How has that helped you? Because I heard your speech that you gave for North America's Next Greatest Speaker, which you did wonderfully, by the way, a semi-finalist, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you.
So what happened? I mean, what would you say you learned from that to give you the platform and what you spoke from your heart?
Yeah. So my life's work is in growing people, has been dedicated to growing people. And what I have learned is the importance of belonging. As a matter of fact, in today's current climate in corporate America, the most recent Deloitte Human Capital Trends Report has identified belonging as one of the top human capital needs in our nation at this time. And what I have learned through my experience is that belonging is an inside job.
Tell me more about that.
Yeah. Belonging is an inside job. We think that we're looking for places to belong. And if you're looking for where you belong, you're looking for comfort. And belonging doesn't necessarily equate to comfort. Sometimes belonging is discomfort, so that we can all grow. I'm in the people growing business.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth of the matter, Matt, is that there is tremendous impact on personal growth and our own sense of belonging. Because when we grow as people, the places where we expand, where we belong, expands exponentially. And that, my friend, has been my greatest learning, is that my growth and my belonging is based on my ability to be open, to be curious, to go where others may not have gone, and to find my rightful place along that journey.
Yeah.
I belong nowhere and I belong everywhere all at the same time.
It's interesting you bring up the word belonging.
Yeah.
because my preacher preached a sermon not too long ago about belonging. And he made the observation that, and I may botch this up, here we go.
Okay.
Pat, if you're watching, I'm sorry, no. But basically, before we can, a lot of churches that he has observed, right, sees that people need to believe the same way that the majority of the congregation believes before they can belong to that congregation. And he said, that is totally backwards.
Totally backwards.
People need to feel that they belong first
That's right.
before we can even get into a conversation about beliefs.
That's right. That's right.
And I was like, wow,
It's
profound, right? See, connection.
It's profound. It's
Yeah.
profound. And so I'll give you, it gives me chills to hear you say that, right? And so let's pause for a moment. And yes, what Russ and Kelli have done is profound. But let's pause for just a moment and let's think about Neil and Shirley and what they did that is incredibly profound. They were willing to lean in and to come face to face with values that had been ingrained in them for years and years and years and years. And we had children.
The two that I know
The two
are
that
just
you know.
stunningly beautiful. They're here in the audience.
There's only two of them that we have together. We have two children, and Russ talks about a photo of my dad with our oldest, Taylor. And
she turns 25 today.
she's 25 today. Happy birthday, Taylor. There's a picture of him with her on his shoulder. We're actually at DFW Airport. This is back in the day where you could actually go inside of the terminals, if that dates us. And how he had that brown baby like up on his chest with his cowboy hat on and his big old redneck belly, and how proud he was. He was a proud grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
And the transformation that they made was really monumental. It was not incremental, I can tell you that. It was monumental, and it would have never happened had they not been forced.
Mm-hmm.
It would have never happened had they not been forced. But because we presented this to them, and Russ always says, we present them something very different than what they're accustomed to, so we have to give them time and space.
Yeah.
So we presented something very different to them, and I would say that my mother at some point told me that he's the best son-in-law she could have ever wished for.
Mm-hmm.
And she really went down in her health was on the decline because of dementia. And in one of her funnier dementia moments, she said to me, "If you divorce him, I'm going to come back and haunt you." Which I just found incredibly hilarious, but it was probably that's probably what was going on in her brain,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And so they, to me, were the heroes in this whole story because they changed. Now, they always still had concerns. There's no doubt about that. And I think rightfully so. We've had some things. We've had some experiences.
Sure.
A lot of things we don't even know that we've experienced because when people look at us, we think that they're just looking at how cute we are.
And you are.
And we are. And so it's been, I have to be honest, Matt, and tell you that it hasn't always been easy. There have been times with our children where they've had some experiences where the mama bear just really comes out and the papa bear just, you have to hold it back. But I believe that we were in some ways chosen to help navigate some very important change in the world.
Yeah.
And especially our two children. I think that they have a responsibility, not just an opportunity, but they have a responsibility to be an agent of change. Does that make sense?
It totally does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard for them. There are times where they tell me the stories, I'm not white enough over here and I'm not black enough over here. But they too will tell you that they feel like that they fit nowhere and yet they fit everywhere. They belong nowhere and yet they belong everywhere. Belonging is an inside job. That's the most important lesson. Belonging is an inside job. Now, everything that I do with my clients in my college and career coaching practice, on stage, in a book that I hope to be writing at some point, it's going to be about belonging and how you achieve that from the inside out, not from the outside in.
Yeah. I think it's so important because you do have to work on the inside. It's kind of the whole analogy of, when you're in an airplane, if the mask dropped, you need to put it on yourself before you try to help somebody else. Like, if you don't take care of yourself.
That's right.
And love yourself.
That's right.
How can you take care or love someone like fully, right? I mean, you can on the surface take care or love them in a shallow way, right? But to really love, that takes some self-love as well.
That takes some self-love.
Mm-hmm.
That takes some self-love.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your career in college coaching and what you do there.
Yeah.
We have maybe about 5 minutes left.
Sure.
So here we go.
30 years I've been in higher education as a senior leader. So I know a thing or two about higher education, the entire student journey, how you gain acceptance, how you succeed, how you navigate a career post-undergrad. And so during COVID, I was sitting on Notre Dame's campus on the senior leadership team at the Mendoza College of Business, which is where I served in a senior leadership role on the emergency response team that was rewriting the policies of higher education so that we could deliver in-person instruction. And I remember, God just tells you things sometimes and very clear. I remember being on a plane from South Bend, Indiana, coming back to Texas to celebrate my oldest daughter's graduation from college. She graduated from TCU. Mm-hmm. And as we were lifting off, something overcame me, and I looked at Russ and I said, we have to go back home. And so we made the transition back to Texas. And that's when I heard my mother speaking in my ear. She told me many years ago, you're very successful and you make a lot of money. You would make a lot more money if you were in business for yourself. Mm. And so here I am. I'm bringing everything that I know about college and career and how to find the place you belong in that context. And I'm bringing all of that wisdom to my clients and really, I think, making a tremendous impact in that regard.
I have a question for you. As, a father of 4 children and one that just graduated. And
from A&M, Gigo.
Yeah, so she graduated, and then a son that just graduated high school, and he's taken a year off.
Yeah, a gap.
Because he was not happy in school the last year and a half or so. He graduated, thank you, God. So at some point he was like, I'm just going to drop out and get my GED. And I was like, no, it'll never happen. So, but that being said, like his mom and I were straight A students, I don't know where that happened, but but he's going to take a gap year. And I'm like, that's cool. That's whatever you want to do.
That's right.
But he doesn't want to go to college. Like he's thinking he wants to go to trade school.
Yeah. My mother didn't want me to marry a black man.
So what do you, and the expectation of the parents are, I don't believe he needs to go to college. Like if he doesn't want to, there are opportunities out there. You don't have to go to college. Right. Now, I'm saying that to a college career coach. So it's like, okay, when you hear that, what does that say to you? Is that like...
Well, look, I'm a college and career coach with 2 degrees, married to a man that has no degrees. So obviously, while I value education can be formal, it can be informal.
Yeah.
And when you don't have a college degree, you just have to understand the rules of engagement of the industries that you're entering into and make them work for you.
Yeah.
That's what we did for Russ. He became entrepreneurial a long time ago. Yeah. So yeah, I've worked at some really cool institutions, Notre Dame, Duke, Texas A&M, TCU, and I just really believe in higher education if it's the right thing.
Yeah.
And I've seen it go badly if it's not where you belong.
Yeah.
So
I have too.
Where you belong.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. Belonging.
It's all about belonging.
It's an inside job.
It's an inside job. Belonging.
Yes, ma'am.
Inside job.
All right. Last 3 questions.
Okay.
Here we go. I prepped you. So hopefully you have no.
I'll say you didn't prep me for anything.
I know. I don't ever prep my guest. So if you're ever a guest on the show, I never prep you. So
Never prep.
It's
Never
all
prep.
I like to ask 3 questions at the end of my interviews of a living person you'd like to meet, a place that you would like to go, or an experience you'd like to have. So rapid fire. This is not like a whole lot of fluff. It's just who's a person you'd like to meet.
Michelle Obama.
There we go. A place you want to go?
Back to Buenos Aires.
Okay. Back there. All right. And then an experience you'd like to have.
Retirement.
Oh, that's going to happen regardless. I'm talking about jumping out of a perfectly good airplane.
Yeah, that's
or
never going to happen.
going to the Olympics. Like, is there some experience you would like to have?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Early in my relationship with Russ, I always said that I wanted to go to the Oprah show. And that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So,
but you're on an Oprah-style studio today, and here we go. We have some people in the live audience.
That's right. So I've been blessed with a lot of really cool experiences in my life.
Yep.
I think it would be super cool. This is really going to age me to have a front row pass on the Madonna tour.
Okay.
Can you hook me up?
I will see. That's why I asked the questions, because maybe somebody who's tuning in has a connection. So we'll see. Kelli, thank you so much for being here.
This has been so much fun.
It has been. See, I told you the time would just fly.
It flies.
And it just,
It just flies.
I looked up at the clock and I was like, whoa, what?
And that's how I felt when I was giving my speech last week, too.
Right. No, but it has been a pleasure. And I can't wait to see what our journey together, what that looks like. And I just adore you and your daughters. Met Russ today. So, beautiful family.
So having this platform to share our story is a gift, is a true gift. And I don't think that us meeting was by happenstance. So I really appreciate you allowing me and my family to come in and tell our story and to support your success along the way. And if there are others that are in your viewing audience who we can support, I want them to consider us a resource.
For sure. And how would somebody get in touch with you, Kelli?
So the best way to get in touch with me is on Facebook. I'm old. Is on Facebook at the moment at Kelli Taylor Kilpatrick. That's my Facebook handle.
Okay.
And I also have an email that folks can reach out to me at kelly@kilpatrickcoaching.com.
Okay.
But we're here to serve. Me and my family, we're here to serve you and serve your viewers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, my friends. Yes.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. That's a wrap for today. Thank you for tuning in. And make sure you tune in next week as we have another fascinating person with an inspiring story. And make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. See y'all later.
If you'd like to contact Matt or know a fascinating person with an inspiring story that would make a great guest, reach out to the show at themattHiltonshow@gmail.com.